trucks on those roads.
So, if you are in that environment,
I think the trucks are still there.
Tell us whether the trucks have left, because it is very important to ensure that whatever the governor of Lagos State says is executed accordingly. It's the governor, the chief security officer of the state.
As they say in Nigeria, according by.
So yes, if they still happen to be there,
let us know.
Because, I mean, the governor will deal with you decisively. Yes. What are you talking about? Yes.
Anybody would think that you were the governor.
Yeah, come on. If the governor has given an order. In fact, you remember that he went to this particular location where, you people, I give you X number of days.
The president gave them order once. They left for 2 days and they were back. That's the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
It was that president, not this president. So the governor of
says
has said it. So if they are still there, send us an email.
Okay.
We'll see the email address on your list.
Also, in the course of the week, we heard that palliative loans were given to manufacturers, but palliative loans were being approved for manufacturers. But the manufacturers, the foreign manufacturers, the multinationals in our country are leaving. So, and then our president is traveling around the world inviting people to come and invest in Nigeria. And I'm wondering, I'm not getting this. I'm not understanding. And then you are telling me that I should be coming down.
Oh, well, there are two options. Either you are coming down or are coming up.
I will choose to up. Thank you.
But you know, the thing
the
is
verb
this.
to up.
The thing is this, and it's an irony.
It's
an irony.
It is.
While many Nigerians were leaving the country some months, maybe about a year or so thereabout ago, the president at the time, I don't know what you do, welcomed many foreigners, more than 200, almost 300 foreigners who wanted to naturalize to be Nigerians. You know, so there must be some things I want to say. But you know, what is interesting, right, is have we even been able to track and pin down what is it that make these people leave? Michelin left Nigeria. Why? Dunlop left Nigeria. Why? Peugeot.
Lately, P&G.
And that's
GSK. And even foreign airlines are threatening to leave Nigeria.
So what is the thing that is making someone to leave and some want to stay in Nigeria? I think those are troubling issues that, let me hope. One of the things the president said, by the way, the current president said, by the way, is that, look, we'll make sure it's easy for you to repatriate your funds.
Yeah.
Remember the previous government, they talked a lot about ease of doing business. But it was just a sample to 1 or 2 states.
Yeah. So, we spoke about this ease of doing business this morning before coming on air, and I was saying to you that there's an area which wasn't looked at that time. The vice president who was in charge of that particular program made sure that you could get visas on arrival, make it easier for foreigners to come in who were coming in to do business here. But when I looked at the matter critically, I realized that corruption played a very big part in killing businesses in Nigeria.
Yes, I don't like the word you used. It is not past tense.
Okay.
It's present continuous.
Corruption plays.
Please, still doing it. Remember those officers of the law at the airport? I think it was at the airport. That was saying...
It's one officer. One. Yeah,
okay.
One lady.
Okay.
Give me 5,000
So
naira.
where did she get the courage from?
And when the guy said no, she said 3. The guy said, I don't get.
So they call it negotiate.
Like they were pricing pepper in the market.
Pricing bribery.
Pricing bribery.
So there was another word, I don't know, you also may have seen that one. A biker. And the police stopped the fellow. The lady, it was a lady who was biking. Of course, because she had all of the gear on, you wouldn't know who it was. The guy stopped her and said,
Shake body. Shake body.
Hey, don't we know these things? So, one of the things that I said, back, when we were preparing is that we seem to have lost our sense of Nigerianness, sense of patriotism seems gone. And that is why anyone who finds himself in a position of authority, even the driver of a vehicle, they forget that the surname of their function is servant. And who is a servant? You are a civil servant. You are a public servant. You are not the boss. The person you are arresting is the boss. Yes, the person you are arresting is the boss. So let's get the general understanding of these things and treat ourselves and our nation with respect.
I saw the Minister for Information and National Orientation during the week. I didn't pay attention to what he was saying because I was very, very pained at how we seem to have lost all thought of our country. It is not our country we think about, it's our pockets. We think about ourselves first.
Two references that I would make, Alero. One, Sam Adeyemi said exactly what you're saying on the same program, Sunrise Daily. Look, when I was asking, how do we bring everyone together to think Nigeria? I said, look, the leaders of today are thinking, first of all, about themselves.
Exactly.
The minister said, trust is gone, and he has a mandate to restore it.
Yeah.
Question is how? Let me be clear. It is absolutely impossible to achieve that feat without the partnership of other stakeholders, particularly the state governments. So when people see some things happening in their states, impunity, making the rounds and stuff, how are we going to trust the system?
And when a leader spends the kind of money we heard that the Senate president spent on his insignificant, and I mean that as in it is not a landmark birthday. If he spends that kind of money celebrating a birthday, then the people begin to wonder, okay, so how much does he get paid? Where's he getting all this money from that he's spending like that?
No,
is that really his money?
Exactly. It's his friends, friends and associates who love him, who have benefited from his goodwill over the years. You just want to...
And you want to convince these people who have not had a good meal in a week?
Well, different strokes for different folks.
The people are so disillusioned. You really need to get them back on board. Minister for Information and National Orientation, you have your work cut out. And all I can do is wish you good luck. Because you need to bring back that Nigerian thing where... But when you hear stuff like people... What's the expression that they use again? People in high places are the ones who are stealing our oil, stealing our crude oil.
And we're still looking for them.
And then you arrest an Okada man and you get a phone call from Abuja and someone says, release that man immediately. I mean, you're not thinking about the country first. Please, we need to put Nigeria first.
I think one of the things that...
Talking about putting Nigeria first, Ajaokuta still rolling mill.
If Ajaokuta worked today, Alero, my opinion is a lot of things will be solved, a lot of problems will be solved for us as a nation. If Ajaokuta were to work today, start functioning, I'm wondering, the automobile industry, for instance, will come back. There is all the people that had to bring, start refineries in the country. You can imagine how much they had to spend to bring this steel infrastructure into the country. All of that will go under.
There you go.
The steel rods used for buildings and all those things. During part of the things that was responsible for collapsed buildings were that the dimensions were getting smaller and the quality of steel was getting smaller.
If we had our own rolling mill.
If we had our own rolling mill.
Can there be industrialization without a steel rolling mill?
So when you talk about all these little issues, it sounds to me like people are just touching Nigeria with their eyes blindfolded. I mean, okay, oh, Nigeria is an arm. Oh, Nigeria is a leg. But if you look out and you see the humongous edifice called Nigeria,
and
then
you see its potential.
Yes. The last, as far as the 80s, all I could do was watch TV. And I could tell at that time that they were telling us Nigeria is the giant
of Africa.
We
We call ourselves that now, but somehow I don't feel like a giant.
Well, it's not a function of feeling. You are a giant, whether you live as a giant or not. That's another thing.
Well, I'm not behaving like I'm a giant.
Well, it depends on how you see yourself in the mirror. A cat could see itself as a lion.
Some Liberian blogger, or whatever they call them, put something on the internet and says, hey, Nigeria says it is the giant of Africa. But here is a photo of Nigeria at night, Lagos at night. Total blackness.
Well, another fellow came to Nigeria, to Lagos, and traveled around and said all the things that they were saying about Nigeria was wrong, that Nigeria is very hip and techie and all those things. It depends on who is looking at it. I have chosen, I told you, to be positive about this country because the potential we have, the potential we have as a nation.
But being positive doesn't mean that we will ignore our
absolutely not. Absolutely not, Alero. I am going to shout it to the rooftops. Everything that is wrong. First of all, the people, if you find yourself in government, recognize, even if you're a driver, recognize you are there to serve. First of all, you are there to serve. So a situation where a policeman, I was driving, along a very small road, and this fellow, because he had a driver beside, a policeman beside him, he thought he could roughshod me out of the way. He was he was facing me. I was on the right. He was on the wrong.
You had right of way.
Absolutely. I stopped right there in front of him. Oh yeah, run me over. They had to pilot themselves, back into that. He was now still pointing at, come on. And these are the little things.
To set the example.
Exactly. People don't know that once you carry a government nameplate, you are supposed to be an example. But hey, how many of them are even watching this program right now? The drivers I'm talking about. But the bosses,
the bosses are asleep.
Who
having
right
partied
there
all night.
saying, who are those people? You are not the boss. You're a servant.
The office of the citizen, we must remind all of us again, is the most powerful office in the land. The office of the citizen. And I'm glad to say that gradually the citizen is waking up from his slumber.
Well, we're not going to just sit down and just be watching. They allow me to scatter my scripts. They are not going to allow me to just watch and just... No.
He scattered his papers.
Look, we respect public offices. That is why we put a lot of infrastructure around them. The president has an entourage. The governors have an entourage. The minister has an entourage. The commissioner has an entourage.
Policemen, outriders.
All those things, they are there because we want to protect that office. But that does not make you the boss. We are protecting the office that we created for you. Thank you very much.
Bam.
All in favor say aye.
Now, we're going to start the program by looking at the Rivers political crisis. Yeah, we mentioned that when we opened the program today. It was one day, one drama.
So when is the grand finale coming? Another thing that we've talked about, mentioned this morning, is Nigeria's inflationary trajectory and exchange rates. Remember, the CBN has made a promise. See how it goes.
2024. Here we come. Lagos State Transport System.
Yeah, what's that all about? Don't keep your gunpowder dry. And then today, we're going to talk about lifestyle. And that's the topic on your screen. Healthy skincare habits. So I saw a video.
Ladies, pay attention.
Even men. I saw a video. One person said scrubbing your body with sponge.
Sponge is bad.
Every day is bad.
They say so.
Oh.
They say you should scrub one day and then use a flannel the next day or something.
English.
Yes, and we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment as is usual.
So, I have had my cocoa this morning. I mixed it with honey.
I'm hoping to have some cocoa when we finish.
So stick with us. We are right back after this.
Thank you very much for joining us this beautiful Saturday morning, in which we have seen a little Harmattan haze and a little Harmattan breeze as well. Rivers State has been in a political crisis for a few months following the impasse between the state governor, Sim Fubara, and his predecessor and godfather, former Governor Nyesom Wike, who is now the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, a position which he holds in an all-progressive Congress government. While President Bola Tinubu had earlier...
add the fact that he is a member of the opposition. I'm just saying.
Okay. My partner insists that I should stress that he is a member of the opposition party. He's a member of the PDP, and he's in the APC-led central government.
Which is not the first time it's happening. Bola Ige also held an office in an opposition... go on. Go ahead.
While President Bola Tinubu had earlier waded into the matter, the political tension in Rivers State has now taken another dimension with what happened in the course of the week. I'm sure you will recall that 27 members of the 32 members of the State Assembly defected to the APC in the course of the week, but we understand that 2 of them have since gone back to the PDP. So we have 2 factions now in the State Assembly, and the governor actually presented his appropriation bill to 5 members in the course of the week. So,
and set a world record, because following it was signed into law.
It was signed, approved by 5 members only out of 32.
If it's a rumor, we'll find out.
Okay. Well, our guest is actually having a little chuckle. And our guest in the studio is Mr. Thangod Nwuga, principal partner of TG Nwuga & Co., a lawyer and an indigene of Rivers State. Good morning.
Good morning.
And we have joining us via Zoom, advisor on security and revenue generation, Rivers State National Coordinator, South-South Leadership Forum, ANAB's Sarah Igbe. Good morning, Mr. Sarah Igbe.
Morning.
Good of you to join us. Mr. Nwuga, you were chuckling when I was doing my introduction. You come from that state. Is all this coming to you as a bit of surprise, seeing as the current governor is actually godchild of the former governor?
Well, I think it's not a surprise. They didn't come to me as a surprise. Going by the way Wike came to power and going by the system he ran, that system was contradictory. I believe that any system that is founded on contradiction has in it the seeds of its own self-destruction. So when I started writing the implosion, I wasn't surprised. First of all, I see it in 2 perspectives. Firstly, I see it as a divine intervention in the affairs of men. Secondly, for the former governor, I see it as a case of a chicken coming home to roost after an act of treachery.
Act of treachery?
Treachery, yes.
Yes, you need to explain, tell us more about that.
Yes, Wike came to power in 2015 like a hurricane. He swept everybody asunder. He left blood that trail, and the Rivers people for the past 8 years have been subjugated to his whims, to his caprices. Wike is one governor that demolishes properties of opponents who disagree with him. Wike withdraws certificate of occupancy of properties of dissenting politicians while in church service or even during political rallies. Those who disagree with him are either abused, bullied. He was the emperor. Rivers State was his personal estate.
You know, you're a lawyer.
I am.
So you
know the
understand,
implication.
you understand slander.
Yes, I do.
He is not here to defend
I
himself.
do.
And there is no
And I
one
have
here
instances.
to speak on his behalf.
Yes.
Has any of these cases you are alleging been taken to court?
Yes, I think I have to start from myself personally. When he came in 2015, the first, most of his policies were geared towards dislodging some of the structures put in place by his predecessor. The first thing they did was to stop what we call the TMARIF, River State Traffic Management Agency, which came into force by virtue of a law of a state House of Assembly. The second one, he recognized Celeste Nomaya as a former governor, despite the Supreme Court's decision declaring that May had never existed as a governor. I personally went to court. Unfortunately, the judiciary did not do very well at that time. That case was in court for 2 years. In fact, each day it came up. The judge, who is the current chief judge now, ensured that he never sat or he stopped at a case that is next to that one in the list. I was frustrated. Ironically, just because he was good, America supported him that time. He recognized him and conferred all the privileges on him. Now, when Omea disagreed with him, he went to God and asked him, bring back 200 million. You get you. So that is how he has run River State. The only interest that is paramount to Governor Wike has been his interest, and sometimes the interest of his Ikule ethnic, not even Ikule in general, his local government.
Okay, let's ask Mr. Anab Saraigbe, who is with us virtually. How do you open on these issues? There are those who are wondering how the legality of all of these issues, that have happened, the action of the governor, the action of the members of the State House of Assembly and all. How is government internalizing these issues?
Thank you very much. First of all, as elder statesmen, we are looking for how we can make peace in the state, because when there is peace, governance can take place. When there is peace, everybody will go freely. Unfortunately, Mr. President intervened, and Wike said, whatever Mr. President said is not going to abide by it. And ever since then, he has come out with thunder and brimstone. What he will do to this, what he will not do that. First, he asked the assembly members loyal to him to move to APC. And he's a lawyer, he ought to know that move will cost the assembly members their seat.
Mm-hmm. But you also
legal opinion has been
just a second, Mr. Saraigbe. Those legislators in the House of Assembly already came out to say it was a decision they took by themselves and they had nothing to do with the former governor and minister.
My brother, let me tell you, I am a father to some of them. I know they have their personal grievances, but they cannot do what they did without the support of the Godfather. They believe that Wike and Sim are having a problem, and because of that problem, they cash onto that problem to threaten him. Even before the impeachment saga, some commissioners were even threatening the governor, if you do rubbish, we will impeach you. There are all kinds of things. But the governor is a calm person, and I believe strongly that this one man who loves Wike so much and has done so much sacrifice for Wike, before he became governor and after he became, up to today as we're talking, the governor is not disposed to making trouble with the minister. He still see him as father and son of relationship, as I speak to you today. So the minister, because of greed, because of one man who wants to get everything, The first thing they did was to take over the two parties, the APC and the PDP. I have never seen in this of politics, I've been in politics for 4 decades plus. I've never seen where one man belongs to the government in power and be in the opposition. Never. This is the first time one will be in 2 political parties, and the parties cannot even discipline him.
But this is not the first time, Mr. Saraiwe, as I quipped when my colleague was introducing this topic, that we would have an opposition official in government, in a current government. The Lagos State governor at the time, that's the current president, when he was governor of Lagos State, had members of the PDP in his cabinet. And at that same time, during that same period, the Obasanjo government had a Bola Ige, at least, in his government, who was a member of the opposition. So it's not something new, is it?
There is difference between serving in the government and the controlling political parties. Today, as we speak, the PDP reports to Wike. The APC reports to Wike in Rivers State. It's different from him serving in the government of Tinubu. The chairman of the APC reports to Wike. The chairman of PDP reports to Wike. So these are clear facts. When somebody is in control, who wants power, it's not the best, and that is what is leading to some of these problems. The House of Assembly members, 27 of them, 2 by the time came back. And from the way things are going, the Speaker has already declared a seat vacant. The Speaker recognized by law. I will tell you one Anambra State, when Jim Wobodo was going, he brought a successor. And when they disagreed, the successor had 6, Jim Wobodo had 20-something. Jim Wobodo, Adenamani, Jim Wobodo tried to impeach Namani. And Namani with the 6, make sure they suspend the 27 of Jim Wobodo. And they did that till Jim Wobodo. Namani was able to do his first turn and second turn and left. But in this instance, yeah, he did not only pull the House of Assembly members. I can assure you that more commissioners will leave because he appointed more than 80% of the commissioners in Sim's government. Sim just announcing the commissioners, but the man who recommended and ensured they are there was the governor. In addition, the governor also decide who gets what contract. And before now, you cannot go to government house unless the governor clears with you, clears with his predecessor to say, look, somebody's coming, can I see him or not? But what is the problem, the bone of the problem? Wike has come to tell the world that he's fighting Sim because of Sim wanting to take his structure. And what are the structures 6 months into elections, after elections? What are structures going to do? We are not close to election. So what are structures going to do? But I will tell you why he's talking about the type of structure he's talking about. Now, before Wike left government, the state was getting IDRO of over 10 billion. When he left, the IDRO came down to 6 billion. And the governor, who was the Accountant General when he was there, began to ask question, why is it coming down? And in the process, he engaged somebody who has passed through that process. So please look at the books for me. Why is my revenue coming down so that I can advise? Then the Commissioner of Finance got to Wike, and Wike got angry. This is a structure. Wike felt the money is collected from the IGR. This boy has come to stop it. And it's taken over 4 billion. So he has come to stop it. Secondly, all the federation account allocation that is coming, Wike before he left, tie all of them to one project or the other and attach it to the bank. So when the money comes, the money goes to the bank collects whatever they want to collect and pay the contractors. Of course, there was no budgetary approval. We don't even know how much was the contract. So when this governor now felt, how will I run a government? I don't have resources to run a government. He became hostile to the governor, and the governor said, okay, let me resign. If that is the case, the PDP elders prevailed on him not to resign, thinking it would be adverse all over. As soon as that came up, personally, I came on air and advised Nyesom Wike, leave this boy alone to govern. Allow him, even if it's your son. I even went as far as giving him references. Now look, Saraki and his father. Saraki, the father, Dr. Saraki, brought his son. But when his ideology and the son don't agree, the son told him, Baba, go arrest. That is father and son. So this you cannot bring somebody a governor. A seat, very important seat in Nigeria. That was the seat where Odili sat and almost became a president. That was the seat Amechi sat and connived with others to remove the sitting president. That is the seat Wike himself sat and became Superman. So you are asking somebody who's on that seat to be subservient.
Okay.
But the boy is still loyal.
Okay, let's bring it to you, Mr. Uha. Speak to the legality of this entire process. He cited the example of former Governor Jim Wobodo and the efforts, that he tried to make. In more recent history, we had what happened in Edo State, where the minority, was literally just said, sat down the majority in the House, and a number of other examples here and there in the country in this same Fourth Republic. Please help us understand the legality of those actions. We'll speak about other issues, but speak first of all to the legality of it and how that could be ebbing away on our hard-earned, hard-fought for democracy.
Thank you. I think I watched Mr. Femi Falana essay on this channel, discussing this issue. I think he pointedly said the 27 members who defected did not have sound legal advice. I think I believe, most of them feel. If you look at section 109, the introductory part of that section, it used the word shall. That a member of the State House shall vacate his seat if so thing happens, if he changes his political party.
Yeah.
When the Constitution uses the word shall, it means it's mandatory.
But don't also forget, in that same section, there was another proviso.
I'm coming to that proviso. Okay. Yes, it means it is mandatory. It means at the time you are contemplating on leaving the political party that voted you into the House, you should have in mind that they are gone. You can't eat your cake and have it back. That is the case. All that is required, according to section 2 of that section 109, is for the Speaker to give effect to that session. So here, when these young men or men who were elected to serve their people decided to change their party, they cited the reason there. From what I said, there's a proviso. The essence of a proviso is to limit the oppression of a particular section of the law. So that proviso is if there is division. But the courts have interpreted the meaning of what constitutes division for the purpose of that section in a plethora of cases.
So there is no such division.
What they are saying is that they don't know who is the national secretary of a PDP. They don't know who is national. That is not division. That is a self-imposed division. The courts have said that division must be such that should affect the entire structure of the party and make it impossible for the party to work. There is no such division in PDP. So, when they left, of course the courts, Justice Danagogo, had given an order, practically recognizing them and recognizing the speaker, the fractional speaker, and the other members who have not defected. So
in other words, those members who defected are no longer members of the State Assembly.
From the words of the Constitution, they are no longer members. They know it. From the time they contemplated it, if they had gotten good legal advice, they would have known that why contemplating to do this, you should know you're out.
But there was
in that case, what the governor did by presenting the appropriation bill to only the members who had not defected was correct in the eye of the law.
It was proper because de facto, they were the only recognized members of the House of Assembly in place.
Now, does it also, is the law also on the side of passing that bill on one day, of presenting that bill on one day, taking the bill through the process in 24 hours, and the bill was signed the following day into law?
Well, I am not aware of any law that gives any time frame. I think what is important is the interest of the people. What should we be looking at is this is a state that has the highest number of unemployment. This is a state that has the highest level of insecurity. Any governor elected there should act like a cyclone.
Again, Mr. Awuha, to speak to the law and what is proper. Just a second.
That is why I said.
See, the law will cover quite a number of ministries, departments, and agencies.
Yes.
And it is all for good governance. The law also recognizes the need to service a good number of local government areas in the same state.
Yes.
So, in the eye of rule of law, of good governance, and all of those things, do you think there was due process followed?
Well, from speaking as a lawyer, I think if one might say that the passage was rather very hasty, but is there any law forbidding what they did?
Yeah.
If there's no law forbidding what they did, I won't blame them. I think whatever they did was informed by the exigencies of the moment, which they are privy to. You and I are not. So it is every law has its reasons why it was created.
Okay.
Mr. Saraigbe, what do you think about the speed with which the State House of Assembly was demolished? Do you think there were any ulterior motives for that?
Well, the governor or the government has come out with a statement that after the dynamite, it affected the structure, and the place is not conducive enough for them to use as House of Assembly. You know, we have what you call public liability in insurance. If a place is insured and you cannot be able to secure the people who are coming, a third party in particular, and that there's an accident, you are liable to it. So if government felt that, look, this place is no longer conducive for them to run the house, well, they can provide an alternative place and demolish and build a new one. Don't forget that the governor is the custodian of all the properties of the government. And as a custodian, he knows what is best for every part of the government, every arm of the government. Okay. And so if they felt that the engineers have so advised them and it is the best interest of the public to rebuild the place, so be it.
Okay.
The legislature has no right to ask governor, oh, why do you destroy? Why do you demolish?
Okay.
Also, he has gone to court to say he wants to renovate the place. And if in the course of renovation, they still see that the best thing is to build a better house and demolish, so be it. So for me, I don't see anything wrong with the demolition of that assembly. Okay. That is one aspect of my answer.
Okay. Staying with you, sir. I beg your pardon.
You've asked people.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Sarai, but we have to manage our time. We're running out of time. Staying with you, what is the atmosphere like in the state in light of all these happenings, you know, and the rapidity with which they're happening?
Well, Rivers people are not happy with the developments in the state. And 95% of the people are blaming the former governor. They are blaming him in the sense that he had his own 8 years, uninterrupted, nobody disturbed him. He's talking about ingratitude. He was the most man with ingratitude because Jonathan and his wife stood for him. against the odds, against every odds, that his own brother was just going, and the Korean man was just going, and he came in to stay. For him to come, there was a big fight. Jonathan and his wife stood. I know how many times Jonathan and his wife approached me to support. Bepe, advanced Bepe, was like the messenger they were using. And when I asked Mr. Jonathan, he said he's a friend to Advanced Bepe, and Advanced Bepe has spoken so much about him. But today, how did he pay back to Jonathan and his wife? What of the baby that was the errand boy? How did he address his case? He went to took the structure of PDP from Juyu Aki through go round Felix Ogua and Ibibia Walter, using them to lie before the court that they were duly elected in the convention. Whereas that was a total lie.
Okay, well, Mr. Aransari, let's wrap up with solutions and reconciliation. You began, and I was very glad when you mentioned it, by saying that you're a statesman, and as statesman, you have to measure your responses to some of these issues. This is the reality we have on our hands now. For you, what is the way forward so that not only do we see things, do things look peaceful, but they are actually peaceful indeed, and it's not just something that looks it. What would be your recommendation in mending fences across board so that at the end of the day, it is the people of Rivers State that benefit?
Well, the Rivers State Elders Council and the leaders of thought have met, and they have decided to talk to both parties. They've reached to Mr. Wike. They've also reached to the governor with the view of hearing from both sides and maintain peace.
Okay.
So what we are saying, because the state is tensed up because of several factors, but we believe that we can maintain peace. Wike, as a governor, took over the civil service quarters, allocated it to his friends, sacked to remove them from their quarters. Permanent secretaries don't have more quarters again. Commissioners don't have quarters again. That is also another anger. And you can see the hand of Wike all over the place. Nobody is quarreling. He's the luckiest man who served 8 years, dashed Rivers people money, so much money, would nobody probing you.
So what you also mentioned is...
Why is still loyal to you?
Just one second. Just 1 second, Mr. Saraigwe. So you have said that the elders have met and they are making recommendations. How soon do you see this meeting happening?
Well, Ada George, the leader of the Rivers State Elders of Thought.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. We couldn't just hear you now. We'll come back to you just to take that final thought because we certainly kind of lost that audio. Well, Mr. Uga, let's move forward. For the sake of peace, what would be your recommendation as objectively as you can?
Well, I think a political solution, as suggested by the elder statesman, should be something that should be resorted to. Because to be faster, the governor needs to know his position so that he can start planning and working for Rivers people. The deluge of litigation may not solve the problem. Today, what has happened in court will at the end of the end of a Supreme Court until it is completed. Nobody knows its fate. So if a political solution can be sought and everything amicably settled, so these people can settle down, Assembly House can settle down and make law for Rivers people, and the governor can settle down and implement the laws. Okay,
let's see if we can have Mr. Saraigwe's last comments. So, Mr. Saraigwe, if you can hear me, when is that meeting likely to happen between, that is being called by the elders?
Well, the elders council are reaching to...
Oh, we still can't hear him.
The council are reaching to... but yes, okay,
sorry, Mr. Sarah.
It all depends. Yeah, Yes.
Okay. It all depends on what?
I said that depends on when they will respond.
Okay, all right. Okay,
the meeting.
All right.
Okay. If I had a judge, today is the most senior former governor in the state.
Okay.
Minus Yete Spiff. So if he's calling the meeting and they honor him, I think we can get somewhere.
Thank you very much. Before I say thank you to both our guests this morning, I'd just like to remind you all that when Edo State had crisis with godfatherism and godsonism, you will recall what Nyesom Wike's reaction was and how vehemently he stood behind Obaseki and actually encouraged him to break away from his godfather. So I leave you to be the judge, and I leave you to interpret what I have just said, whichever way you want. I'll just say thank you to Mr. Anabs Sarah Ibe, advisor on security and revenue generation, who joined us via Zoom from Rivers State. And we had in the studio, thank God, Unga, principal partner, TG Unga and Co., a lawyer and an indigene of Rivers State. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And sorry about all that's going on in your state. We hope that everything will be resolved very quickly.
Let me just make a correction.
Yes, sir.
I was a security advisor, not a current security advisor.
Oh, okay.
I was a security advisor under Odili, Dr. Peter Odili.
Former.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Former, yeah. So, no.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.
That's our next conversation. Thank you for staying with us. The Central Bank of Nigeria has said that the country's inflation rate and the pressure on the exchange rate will reduce in the coming year. That is 2024. What's today's date? Today is 16. That's less than half a month. From now.
2 weeks plus.
Okay. But no. They said 2024. It could be December. Let me hope not.
Okay.
Let me hope not. But,
all right.
While the country's inflation rate jumps to 27.33 for November, the highest in 18 years, the Apex Bank's governor, Olayemi Kaloso, projects a slump in 2024. He made this comment during a presentation to the National Assembly Joint Committees on Banking, Insurance, and Other Financial Institutions and Banking Regulations on the activities of the bank, the CBN, and the performance of the Nigerian economy. He also said the country is expecting less oil revenue in the new year owing to several factors. Well, maybe when we talk about energy. By the way, it's in the news today that Ghana's inflation rate reduced by 8.8%.
By 8? Well, so there's hope for us.
There is hope for us. So, but how all of this is going to go, let's have this conversation with two gentlemen with us this morning. Emmanuel Onasami is lead partner, Cardinal Professional Economy. He's an economist. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we also have joining us virtually, Gospel Obele, who is a chief economist, Streetnomics. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Let me begin with Economics 101 to both of you this morning. For those who are hearing inflation rate is high, and then they go irate on the government and all of that, what does it mean when you say inflation? Let me begin with you, Mr. Onasami. When you say inflation, what should the Nigerian understand inflation to mean?
Okay, I'm also pro-clarity, you understand? Okay. In the sense that, you can be carried away with your technical jargon and you lose everybody and they are unable to relate with whatever, the statistic has churning out. You just said the headline inflation is 27.33. What does it mean to an average person, sitting down in the sitting room, and how do I understand that. I think it will be good to have to first speak about what inflation is. You understand, a layman understanding of inflation. Inflation simply speaks to situation where prices of goods and services are rising periodically. So you see month on month, they keep reviewing it and say, okay, what was the prices of goods and services in different sectors, and then from that perspective, they compare it and then say, okay, last month was this figure, this month was this figure, and then whether there's an increase or decrease, But in the case of Nigeria, not like Ghana, in November we had an increase in inflation. And when inflation happens, what then means is that your purchasing power as an individual then reduces. You understand? Meaning that what you could buy last month with, say, 100 naira, you can no longer purchase that same thing.
So, in other words,
yeah.
Let's say, hypothetically, a cup of gari or a bucket of gari in the market was 50 naira.
Say in October.
In October.
Yeah.
So it has increased now by 27.33% on the average.
Okay, the headline inflation is actually year on year, but if you look at it month on month, maybe like 300 basis points or 3.72 increment.
Here we go.
Okay, last Christmas we were buying chickens at what? 4,000 naira.
Yes,
this year,
Alero could relate better because that's our department.
This year we're buying chickens at 12,000. Turkeys have gone from 35 to 65,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what is making sense to the common man on the street.
So that is the year on year,
Yes.
and headline inflation says little about what the situation is because the headline inflation is like a statistical average of all the inflation across all the sectors. So,
okay, let me see if that's the same way Mr. Obele understands what inflation to mean. Help us understand. Do you agree with him or you want to add a twist?
Yes, I do agree with him. And to a very large extent as well. I think there's also some form of miscommunication in the jargon, which sometimes can be a leverage point for professionals, in the sense that, when you talk about inflation rate went up by 2% or 3% in terms of the month-on-month difference, it doesn't necessarily mean that the prices have gone down. It just simply means that the pace at which prices are increasing has slowed down. So prices are still increasing, but the pace has slowed down. All right. So he's very correct to say that the headline is just year-on-year comparison. You also have month-on-month comparison as well. But overall, it's safe to say that the price of bread in Nigeria has increased significantly. The price of gari and sugar and all those basic things. So if the average Nigerian is spending more amount or more sides of their income to just have a daily, to just, be able to survive, trying to be able to meet basic necessities. It technically means that there's a pain, across the board. That means people are spending more to eat, to put a roof over their head, and that's also sort of, leads to some of poverty, in the sense that people cannot have so much to fund their dreams and aspirations.
And that's actually
constrained.
Yeah, my apologies. And that's actually, quite stronger statement you just made, particularly in the light of what came up in the news in the past maybe 1 or 2 weeks, that people prefer to go to what is referred to on the streets as loan sharks just to get a loan to feed. And that's really, really troubling. But when the CBN projects a reduction in inflation, and you've already given us an idea that projection of a reduction in inflation doesn't mean that the prices are down. It's just that it slows down. The increase slows down from, say, 100 kilometers per hour to maybe 60 kilometers per hour. I'm trying to put it in perspective as well.
Yes, sir.
So in that light, do you see that happening in the light of the projection of the CBN?
Well, to be very honest with you, I don't see that happening. The reason is because for you to envisage that projection would technically mean that there are strong structural, solutions or reforms, that are being put in place right now that we can see. All right. So part of the reasons why we have so much inflationary problem in the Nigerian context is we're not producing enough that we can, sort of meet local demand for food, at the quality and at the quantity, two different dynamics. Then you also have a situation where we are a strongly import-dependent economy. No country can really beat inflation if it's a consumption-driven economy, all right? You need a level of productivity. The same thing as well with the exchange rate and all that. No currency can gain value on the grounds of, consumption, all right? So you need a strong level of productivity at base in local economy. Produce what you eat, and you can produce it at the quality and at the scale for the 200 million plus Nigerians that is now. Once you begin to do that, and we can begin to lead the charge around made in Nigeria, consuming locally and reducing import inflation and all the dynamics, then we can also control how global events like the Russia-Ukraine war, COVID-19, climate change, and all that globally are impacting commodity prices, which generally means impacting the cost of wheat, soya bean, grain, and all those things, and in turn impacting the goods and services that are being imported into the Nigerian economy. All right, so we need to deal with the productivity drivers. Once the productivity and structural elements are dealt with, and we can produce food at scale. All right, you imagine the level at which the average Nigerian will find relief in terms of being able to save more amounts of monies and all that. You also want to look at locally in terms of access to from farm to market. What does it cost moving a full? I mean, there's a local government in Benue State where they produce yams only. But the cost of moving those yams from Benue State to Mount Toba, Lagos, is way more expensive than the cost of producing the yam itself in Benue. I didn't even get it. So once we begin to deal with the farm-to-market challenges, you will also realize that all of these costings will slash down. You also want to think about the fuel subsidy conversation. How prices of diesel, fuel, and all that have skyrocketed in recent times. So the high cost of transportation is also impacting on the cost of mobility or cost of moving food items from farm to market. So the conversation of inflation in Nigeria is a play of very interdependent factors that to a very large extent are still hinged on the lack of productivity we have in the country, all right, and also the policy inconsistency that we found in recent times that are impacting on prices and movement of food, goods, and services.
Mr. Anasame, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah.
Are we going to achieve this as the CBN has said in 2024?
What Gospel was trying to say, sometimes we need to be more frantic with ourselves and not deceive ourselves as an economy, you understand, as a nation. The truth is that if you don't get the fundamentals right, your inflation will never drop. And when I say the fundamentals, these are the factors of production. The factors that can lead to productivity. Look at the Nigerian environment. Everything that contributes to production has gone AWOL when it comes to price. And if that is the case, you understand, then the cost of production will be high, and then the cost of products will be high. If you go back to the textbook and evaluate the Nigerian environment very clearly, what has been established is that the inflation we are experiencing in Nigeria is a food-led cost-push inflation. So let me break it down for the benefit of our audience. So when I say food-led, is because they are saying that the reason the inflation is going up is because food prices have gone up. So if I'm a service provider, I'm providing service to Alero now, maybe as a consultant, and the price I need to buy my food has gone up, I will tell Alero, you need to increase my fee.
Yes.
No matter what service
I'm providing to.
Because you have got to eat.
I've got to eat. Yeah. So food-led cost push, you understand? Cost push in the sense that, the factors of production has gone bad. Look at when the cost of procuring forex for import, because largely we are still an import-dependent nation. Cost of procuring forex has almost doubled, or even not more than 4 times, you understand? And then you look at power. You understand? Removal of fuel subsidy also came in, where, businesses have to struggle to cost of powering their business has also gone up. So if you want to look at it, I saw a video on the social media where one of these Nollywood celebrity was making a skit on why the price of egg is also skyrocketing, And what the person doesn't understand that in the agriculture as we have it today in Nigeria is not as efficient as it ought to be run. If you look at other climes, you don't need generator to run a farm. You use the waste generated in that farm to power the farm, because there are government structures that have put things in place to ensure that farming is done more efficiently and food price can go down,
Now, what you just said now, it means that all of the apparatus of government need to work in synchrony somewhat. The analogy in my head is that of the human body.
True.
It's a very, very complex machine. It has 37 trillion parts. 37 trillion parts. Each cell, we are made up of 37 trillion parts in body, bones, and blood cells. The engine of the federal government has 1,500 plus ministries, departments, and agencies. The total population of staff of the federal government, I don't think is up to 2 million.
At all.
Now, we have an engine, a human body, that has 37 trillion cells. We have a federal government engine that is less than 2 million parts. They need to work in synchrony. That's what I hear you saying, if everything is supposed to. So what are the things that the CBN must champion to get all of that engine, the different parts of that engine of the federal government working in sync? So that these things that you're saying can...
True, and in the past, the CBN has dabbled into the areas that they are not supposed to dabble into.
Well, thankfully, they said they are retracing their steps.
So CBN is primarily responsible for monetary policies.
They are repentant.
Okay, they are now repentant. And when it comes to monetary policies, you speak to, interest rates and managing inflation within the economy, which is their primary duty, you understand? And managing inflation, is not just a one-time bullet. Is something that you have to look at an holistic perspective. What are the short-term measures that we will put in place? What are the medium to long-term measures that we also put in place as a government? And that's where all agencies, parastatals, ministry has to come together and then say, if we want to, on a long-term basis, we have to start making the Nigerian environment friendly for production. You understand? And let me tell you, as of today, Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, the body language is that it's cheaper to do nothing than to manufacture in Nigeria. It's just cheaper to do nothing than to manufacture in Nigeria because all the contributors of production are no longer friendly. It's not just
if, from what we hear, manufacturers have to pay as many as 37 different taxes, then we will tend to agree that it's cheaper to do nothing than do all that work producing and then have to pay 37 different taxes.
More so, there are some other aspects of economy that suggest to you that why do you have to stress? Even when you are doing something that much and you're getting nothing, and somebody can just sit in the comfort of his own, do some forex transaction, and then the person is super rich. You understand? Those fundamentals are there that are not encouraging investment. I'm going somewhere because I have to say this. It's not just enough that you have inflation. It is good that as an economy you bite an inflationary impact once and you maintain a stability. Because I tell you the fact that it's not so much about the charade of going to Dubai, going to Saudi Arabia to go and woo investors that will bring the investment into the Nigerian economy. It is the stability of your economy that will attract foreign direct investors. You understand? Let me give you an example. You are coming in as an investor. Today, inflation rate is 27.33 headline, and you have planned your fundamentals based on that. You have planned that this is how I'm going to do business. And if it's stable like that, that means you can come into the environment and do business reliably. But in the situation where inflation figures keeps rising months on months, and you are at the risk that the economy will slide into hyperinflation. And when there's hyperinflation, there will be economic recession. People cannot purchase your product and services. You can never attract any investment that way. So it's not so much about the charade of going around seeking investment. It's about you sitting down locally and tell yourself that, what do I need to do to maintain my fundamentals in a manner that can attract investment?
Mr. Obele, the issue of the forex, I'm guessing that is the reason why even foreign airlines are threatening to leave Nigeria. How do you think we can shore up the value of our naira Or what do you think that CBN will have to do in 2024 to make their promise real?
Thank you very much, Alara, for the question. I will answer that question from two different angles. The first angle is this. It's important to create context to say that the value of a currency is hinged on at least two conditions in the times we live in now globally. The first necessary condition is the fact that you have a productive economy. You have a productive, thriving local economy attracting investment. So meaning that, people can easily buy and sell, exchange value, goods and services and all of that. Your economy is a production powerhouse. And we already have that. We're close to about 40. When I mean we already have that, we have a potential of 41 million SMEs in Nigeria who have a potential to really scale what they're doing, right? And you want to think of that because in terms of global branding and all that, if you look at the value of the Nigerian budget is less than 1/3 of the global value of the Apple brand, for instance, and that is just one business. All right, so if you think of how much 10% of that 41 million businesses, if enabled right within the productivity lines, can thrive in terms of what the value of what they can bring to the table and all that, you'll be surprised to see that the currency would be, much more better than it is today. Secondly, if you want to think about power and all of these different dynamics, if you fix power and all of these little infrastructural questions, the Naira will improve by almost 50 to 70%. All right. Part of what we're dealing with right now locally is the fact that we're not a productive economy. Once you fix the productive drivers, the Naira will begin to gain value because you can now facilitate exchange of goods and services more easily within and across borders. The second sufficient condition is the fact that we are not institutionally driving our monetary policy in such a way that the outlook of the Naira itself is positive within the African and global landscape. All right, if you look at what is happening right now with the dollars, with the pounds and euros, there is a global monetary / political arrangement and movement, all right, to strengthen the currencies globally within markets now. And it's what we term as currency wars, all right? And that's why more nations are trying to come into the BRICS environment. And then, looking at conversations of having a BRICS currency, to trade on. You're having conversations of China trying to bring the yuan to the global trade table to say any sort of exchange you facilitate in the Chinese economy has to be done in yuan and not the dollars. You're having conversations of the AFCFTA saying that we need to have a direct exchange between the Naira and the shillings and not with a third party. So there is so much friction around currency dynamics globally right now. So the central bank, outside just facilitating a productive economy, the fiscal authorities also need to strategically manage and lobby for the positioning of the Naira within the African market, at least to start with. Now, on the second block of trying to respond to this question is looking at our low-hanging fruits. All right, globally, global goods, global services traded in the past 1 year surpassed global goods traded by 15%. All right, first time in donkey years and in decades that we've had global digital services traded items, surpassing global goods traded, and that's to tell you that we are in the world of services, sort of in terms of exchange of value globally across markets now. And the Nigerian GDP has about 56 composition of the services sector. But right now, we do not have a strategic national services policy. There are lots and lots of Nigerians who are constantly freelancing, doing work on Fiverr, exchanging and all of that services across borders, every day. But there's no room to track that. All right, we don't have a services policy to say, can we take this services market, by the way, which needs a lot of organization, and strategic, positioning, not necessarily formalization. All right, so can we take that services block and promote it and then facilitate that exchange within and across borders, such that there's a pipeline to track how much FX is moving within that flow and how the government can also, make good returns from it. So organizing the services sector and also supporting loads of SMEs who are already export ready. There's a study we did with the Faith Foundation called the State of Entrepreneurship Report in Nigeria. Lots of SMEs in Nigeria are ready to export, but they cannot find the necessary one-stop shop environment that helps them facilitate access to market solutions, access to finance solutions, the necessary documentations that they need to take their products from Nigeria and ensure that those products are in Tesco, United Kingdom, and people are actually buying those chocolates and all of that. So, I mean, why should Nigeria have the highest production in cocoa, in tomatoes and all of that, and yet we cannot still export chocolates? Not because there are no SMEs who are not doing that in terms of producing chocolates locally, but there is no mechanism to scale and help those people get their chocolates in the within Sainsbury's in the UK and all the likes. All right, so there has to be a very, very clear definition in terms of how do we support more SMEs to access markets within the African and global scale. And we also need to support the services block, thrive in terms of having a foreign exchange pipeline through which we can organize what they're doing and have a percentage code to say that this is how much comes into the government coffers.
Right.
You also have the diaspora remittances market. Sorry to say, just 30 seconds.
Right.
You have the diaspora market, where remittances are almost up to the tune of $27 billion annually. All right, and all of these pennies go into welfarist funding in terms of consumption for brothers and sisters and relatives back home. All right, so if you can tap into that diaspora remittances block, you realize that there is a lot of FX possibilities to finance lots of investment narratives back. So the possibilities and low-hanging fruits are already there. We just need to channel right to the right possibilities, right political will, transparency and accountability at the very least, to facilitate the onboarding into the mainstream.
Well, that transparency thing, you just flagged Alero here, on that one. But let me come to you, Mr. Nelson, because the reason is that, earlier on we were having conversations around ease of doing business. Both of you have been talking about our productivity and all of that. But then there's the issue of ease of doing business, whether or not anyone who invests money in any business in the country will actually, be happy at the end of the day. Talking about exportation and people exporting out of the country, it's one of the things a number of people who have attempted or who still do it complain about is the corruption in the system that is militating significantly against our capacity to produce, to export, and bring forex into the country. A good number of people who will tell you, look, the only reason they cannot export is because some people will insist that they should exchange hands, one way or the other. And this perhaps speaks to some of the issues you are raising about the inhibitions in limitations, inhibitions, whatever, that is not allowing businessmen to thrive in the country. That will definitely have a serious telling on forex into the country. How do we deal with that?
You took that comment out of my mouth. He was saying there's a gain, from the exports of services, and that is fine. We have a number of talented Nigerians sitting in their rooms and then providing services offshore, and then they bring in forex. Not to say that the part of exporting tangible goods is also not very important, because services, yes, although it's very easy to do, but it doesn't help your productive sector like that. You understand? Services cannot really employ people like production will employ people. See, for example, in manufacturing, FCMG, in Nestle, Coca-Cola, see the number of people working within those facilities, and that is how you get your people employed. But one person just working inside this room will not stimulate, and help you with your unemployment figure. That's why your point is very, very important. Nigeria today still operates the most inefficient port system in Nigeria, not because there are no brains in the world, not because there are no brain, not because there are no technology that can help us to get better efficient, but because it appears the system is just designed to work that way. Because if you look at one of the bane of development in Nigeria is because we don't have strong institutions, we don't have strong agencies. Everybody appointed to drive the affair of agencies, either running the bid or interest of so party in a manner that, some things cannot be done the way they have to be done based on competence. Look at our port system. The regime before the regime we have now, the ease of doing business project was a major thing. But I tell you the truth, truth. You know, you can have all the textbook, you know, things that you want to put out there. If there is no political will for you to implement them, you go around circles. So until our politicians get transparent and they get sincere on whether they want to help Nigerians or not, then we may not be making the right progress. You understand? The problem of Nigeria is not novel like that. The problem of Nigeria is not out of the moons. You understand? It's basic. And when you have sincere people that are ready to help us get out of the system, I think we'll get out of it. I have businesses that I consult for that are into export business, and let me tell you, most of them are clearly diversified because of the inefficiency going on there. You want to export a product and the product is still there 2 months, it has not left the shore of Nigeria. In fact, the product is getting spoiled and damaged inside the container. So how do you want to run those kind of business and say you want to bring in forex into the economy? The system is so much designed such that, you know, you incur demurrages, you incur penalties, and at the end of the day, you know, it's just not attractive for you to do export business. So there has to be something deliberate to make the port efficient if we really want to get production stimulated and export for the purpose of earning forex.
The port is like an organ of the body that also has so many cells. You know, so there is SON, there is customs, there's NAFDAC, and all those things. Are these the elements you're talking about?
Yeah, you know, those are part of the issues, and customs itself, which are part of. So the way other climes have organized this, you understand. You see, in Nigeria, NAFDAC is pulling you one hand, this agency is pulling you another hand, this person wants this interest and all that. At the end of the day, you are the business that is bearing the brunt. But if you look at, for example, in the United Kingdom, you have the tax authority and the custom under one agency. You understand? Under one agency, so that whatever you want to do as custom is also in sync with tax. Okay. You know, but in Nigeria, you see, customs will say that, oh, you undervalue your products because you don't want to pay high tariff or custom charges, your duty, you understand? But the tax authority will say, no, you overprice your product because you don't want to pay less taxes. At the end of the day, the businesses are fighting, and the business that will suffer the tax.
Let's wind down quickly, even though Victor just said that, and I quote, sent this on X. I'm sure those 37 taxes Auntie Alero mentioned does not include Agbero taxes, the phase 2. Let's close with you, Mr. Obele. What would you advise the Nigerian on the streets, because that's where your own nomics is? What would you advise the Nigerian about all of these issues? What should be the position of the Nigerian to encourage what we all want and not just to lament?
So I would encourage them for the average Nigerian to realize that every crisis is an opportunity when looked at again from the right lens. Okay. And that would mean that there is need for them to begin to diversify, the income streams. As much as possible, do not play in very inflationary exposed sectors. If you have to play there, you have to look for a creative way, to tap into, to switch your business model. So, for instance, you sell bowls of soups as a business or as a food business, an MSME. You want to look at how you can scale that into food security and run an access to market solution, via tech and all that. So there are ways to diversify income streams, and the goal is just to have a different perspective about the situation.
Okay. We have to thank you, gentlemen, for coming this morning. All I hear from you both is that there is hope, because at least we can identify what the problems are, and if we do the things that will checkmate those problems, then they'll be resolved. Gospel Obele, Chief Economist, Streetnomics, thank you so much for your time this morning, as well as Mr. Emmanuel Onosami, lead partner, Cardinal Professional Economy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so the show continues right after this break. Do stay with us.